We greet you in the mighty name of Jesus. Thank you once again for taking your time and watch this video. We are here with Jeda. Jeda, what is your name again?
Gerda Potgieter.
Potgieter.
It's a typical Afrikaans name.
Thank you so much. We are here with our sister. She works mostly with different Christian media. She's a journalist. She works with evangelism here in Africa. So she's going to share with us, the challenges and the reasons why she was motivated to start the ministry that she's leading at the moment, and what actually she came to do here in Cape Town as well. So please stay tuned and then you will get more from her. Welcome, sister. You can introduce yourself, then we can take it from there.
Thank you, Jean. So I'm Gerda Potgieter. As you know, I'm Afrikaans speaking.
Yes.
And I had over 30 years of experience in media liaison at a local authority. I went on pension 4 years ago, and I decided then to pursue an ethical journalism. Fake news, it's rife out there. Yes. So I'm a communication specialist, and a few years back, I realized that most of the news in mainstream media is negative. I would call the media, when we have a beautiful project, the outreach or whatever, and they're not interested in the good news.
Yes.
But the moment somebody makes a mistake, the next day there will be 20 journalists in front of your door calling all the time for the story. So that is why I started with Devoted, because there are so many beautiful stories out there, beautiful people doing wonderful work. And mainstream media are just not interested in that because it's not sensation enough. What they say is good news don't sell, negative news sell, unfortunately. So I started with Devoted. It is a not-for-profit magazine. Everybody can go online, www.devotedmag.co.za, and register, be part of our mailing list, and you will receive it, and you can also download it and share with other people. And Devoted is mainly about inspirational stories. We want to inspire people, and we want to motivate people to change the world into a better world.
Thank you.
So that is the Devoted story, but Devoted also expose social ills. And one of the social ills that I focused on for the last 5 years is to expose fake news, because that's rife and it destroys people's lives, etc. So I've mentioned that I had over 30 years experience in media liaison at one organization. Before that, 40 years. So all in all, before that, 10 years. So all in all, about 40 to 50 years of experience only in media liaison. Wow. So I know how the media think. I'm actually a communication specialist.
Thank you so much. Yeah, I think this is a good thing to listen to, because we all know that there is a saying which says that, so if you watch news, you are misinformed, and if you don't watch, you are uninformed. So you have to look at, because as Christians, we also have to be, educated. We also have to be updated with what is going on in the world. So I believe that is the reason why our sister decided to create a Christian media, and currently she's working with Devoted. So I would like her to speak a little bit about Devoted, and as we will be talking about Devoted, what do you want to say about Devoted? Can you introduce Devoted and what motivated you to be with Devoted as well?
Well, like I said, Devoted is all about inspiring people. Yes. And we share stories about people who change their lives for the better, people that's doing good, organizations that's reaching out to others, making the world a better place for all of us without expecting something back. That is what Devoted is all about. So I've traveled to so many places. I've volunteered. I'm currently volunteering here. Whenever I can volunteer, I go out and I do that. So Devoted, firstly, is about inspiring people, tell other people's stories, yes. The stories that mainstream media will not tell, yes. How God changed their lives, how, for instance, people who have been addicted to, drug abuse or whatever, and they decided to change their lives, and how other people or God has intervened in their life to tell those stories and their untold stories.
Wow. And if you look at the media, for example, the media selects the information or the news that they want you to believe. They don't speak their whole truth. And I'm not saying that they speak lies all the time, but they don't give you enough information of what you need to know. They just select a part of it, and then it gives you a picture of what they want you to believe. So as a Christian, how do you think that we can do that differently with the Christian media?
Well, firstly, you have to understand what ethical journalism is. And we also have to understand that news reporting is different from what I'm doing in Devoted. Devoted is your experience. If you share your experience with me, and you say, for instance, if I can give you an example, you say you've been in a prison for 10 years. I will not go and check the facts. Like in news reporting, if I say in news reporting, you have been in prison, then I have to check the facts. But if I share your experience and you tell me you've been in prison for 10 years, I accept your word for it. And the focus or the aim of my story is to inspire other people by your story. So news reporting is hard news, and there are certain rules that has to be followed. And Christian journalists can start there to make sure that they know what those rules are.
So that sound a little bit good. And when you look at Devoted, what Devoted can help Christians so that people can be, motivated to look at Devoted and also be members of it, or even subscribe on it, or, try to read it more about Devoted. What can you say to people that Devoted will help them to change in their current life at the moment?
Well, firstly, Devoted is for free, so that's a bonus. And the reason why it's for free is because we want to build the kingdom, and we want to share people's inspiring stories. It's not about making money out of other people. So that is the good news. People can go on the website www.devotedmag.co.za, and they can subscribe, and they can get it for free. They can download it from the website. We also send it out by WhatsApp. It's the flip page. We are also on Facebook. They can go Divine Publishers Devoted and follow us, and they get all the news there and some inspirational stories as well. But Devoted is also about, like I said, exposing social ills so that people can become aware. And what we've started to do is also to start a series on YouTube, Our Story, Our Journey, Their Story,
yes,
whereby we take specific cases where the media framed a person or organization, mostly many times Christian organizations, falsely or in a negative light. So we tell them the truth, because if you do news reporting, you have to give both sides of the story. So we love to give the other side of the story and to give people a platform to tell their story also.
Yeah, let's say, for example, as you know that the most focus on the news is lies, and the news don't give the truth, obviously, the way they used to do before. And as a Christian, let's say, for example, the truth that has been told, and the truth that was not told by the media, and let's say you have the fact that is currently available to you. How do you deal with the issue like that as a Christian?
You have to deal with it, because if you know the truth and you keep quiet, you are just as guilty. And that's what I found with the case study that I've studied. I would find a good story where clearly you can see God intervened in somebody's life, and it's a beautiful story. But if it is connected to a Christian organization which was framed negatively by the media, they would say it's a hot potato and they would not publish the story. And how do you glorify God? You glorify God by telling people how He helped you and how He helped other people. And that is what Christian organizations should do. Do their homework. Tell both sides of the story. You call it the right to reply. Make sure that you give context to the story. Make sure that you verify your facts. And a very important thing with regards to ethical journalism, the person that brings you a story and it's a negative story, ask that person, why? What's in it for you? What do you get out of it? The case study, for instance, just to give you a quick example, that I've worked on for over 4 years. Somebody was offered R1 million. I mean, that is a red flag. And Christian organizations and Christian journalists, they have to know what the red flags are. And that is one of the roles that Devoted fulfills, is to, by ways of practical examples, explain to journalists what is ethical and what not.
Okay. And as you know that including and excluding information can totally change the way we see things. And we know that the information is supposed to be given just exactly the same way it was received. You know, sometimes people try to persuade other people by giving them the fake information. And because of that, we cannot really believe the news anymore. So we don't know what to believe on the news, even though we might watch the news, but we are not sure whether what they're saying is true or is not, because people only give what they want people to hear or what they want people to believe. As you are dealing with Christian media, do you guys have an organization which maybe look at other facts outside your own research?
Yeah, we have. If you have a Christian media publication or outlet, radio, whatever, you can become a member of the Association for Christian Media. That's a good step because you can learn from other Christian journalists as well. Networks, like I'm doing tomorrow, I'm going to speak about ethical journalism. Networks like that, and it's mostly journalists that's going to be there, Christian journalists. So that gives you the opportunity to share experience, to share knowledge. I mean, I have such a vast experience about the topic and knowledge, and I've been editor for not only for Devoted, but for other publications as well. So we can learn from each other, and we should never be shy to share our experiences, and without payment, because most of these talks that I do is paying it forward. It's not necessarily to put money in my pocket. It is to share experience, and I'm at that age that I want to pay it forward, and I want to share my experience with younger journalists. And I think we all should go that route.
Yeah. Based on your experience, if you look at, for example, there is many false Christians today, and sometimes you heard many testimony from different so-called Christians. And I wanted to understand a little bit about how do you deal with the issue when you think that somebody's not lying, but at the same time is not telling you the whole truth. How do you deal with that?
Yeah, that is keeping context away from you, and that's half a lie. If you don't tell the whole truth, it's half a lie, and it's a lie. Yes. Whether you call it half a lie or not really the truth, it's a lie.
Yes.
And remember that the Bible tells us that we have to point it out to other Christians when we're at fault. We have to tell them that's part of our responsibility as well. So and I think we should do it in a nice way. You don't have to be ugly about that. You can do it in a nice way. So I do thorough research. That is the most important thing. And if you do research, and if you know what the red flags of unethical journalism is, you know what questions to ask. You can ask somebody questions that will, let's say, force or put that person in a position to give you the context.
Yes, I agree.
If you do news reporting, it's the important thing, before I forget.
Yes.
If you do news reporting, it's your responsibility as a journalist to put both sides of the story, to give facts, and then let the reader decide who's guilty and who's not guilty when it's a negative story. You can't, it's not your version of the truth. It must be the truth, and you have to give your reader the opportunity to decide what is the truth.
Okay, I wanted also to ask a question based on what you just said. Let's say you have two sides. Well, let's say the proposition and the opposition side, and they're giving the same story, but each is giving the sides of story that's showing that they are right and the other person is wrong. And you are the one in charge to give the news. So you are in the middle and you have these two witnesses and they are not standing for the same thing, but you want to get the truth. How do you deal with that as well?
Well, for me, it's easy because I decide in the end what's going into my magazine. And if there's a huge question mark, I would rather walk away from that story because there are other beautiful stories. And remember, Devoted is not about sensation. Devoted is about the truth, and Devoted is about inspiring people. So if there's a question mark with regards to a story, I would rather walk away. I would even, if I was a journalist at a secular organization and they expect me to write a story which is not ethical, which is not the truth, I will walk away.
I see. And as Christians, based on the Bible, because we believe that as Christians, everything that we do it for the glory of God. We do it to make God known. I think the Bible says that let God be true and all men liars. In the same way, the Bible says that let your light shine before men so that they can see your good works and glorify your Father in heaven. So my question will be about the people that you guys work with. Are they Christians only, or if let's say you have somebody who have experience and who can do the job in a proper way, but he's not a Christian, can you guys hire that person?
Of course, and also what's important, Devoted is not for Christians only, because we want to get people closer to the Lord. I also tell people that write for me, don't write in Christianese. Write it in such a way that you attract the attention of non-Christians.
As well.
That is important to me. But Devoted is about sharing people's stories. So it doesn't really matter from which background you come from, which culture you come from, whatever. As long as you are a person with a nice story, even if you're not a Christian, we will tell that story because for us it's about people. We love people. That's what's important to us. And I would love to share you information about the book as well, because I've published a book last year. I pursued a doctorate in unethical journalism 4 years ago. So I was looking for a strong case study. Because if you do a doctorate, you have to have a strong case study by ways of, you have to demonstrate. If you say something is unethical, you at least have to demonstrate.
Absolutely.
So I stumbled upon the Kwasi-Sabantu mission, the reportage of that. And very quickly, at that stage, when I was looking for a case study, another news reporter brought it to my attention. She called me, she said, you know what, I've investigated them and the news stories are completely untrue.
Okay.
That could be a good case study for you, but at the same time, there are so many positive things happening there. You can write about that as well. So I went with an open mind. I knew nothing about Kwasi-Sabantu at the time, nothing at all. And when I Googled them, it was only negative news. Mostly negative news.
Okay.
So I visited them because that's what a good reporter is supposed to do, a news reporter. If you write, especially if you write terrible things about a person or whatever, at least visit them and look them in the eyes, because the eyes can tell you when somebody lies or not. I will never do a story if I don't have this kind of interaction with a person that I can look in the eyes, ask him the questions. You can quickly. I studied body language during my communication courses. So I know exactly when you lie and when you don't lie. So to cut a long story short, I went there, and the first day I was there, I knew in my heart what was going on. I knew that this was a strong case study to demonstrate unethical journalism. But I did not, and that is important to understand, I did not write the book from a Christian perspective, because that would be biased.
Okay.
I wrote it from a journalistic. What I've done is, there were mostly negative reports, but there was one investigative journalism not a newspaper, magazine, who wrote a different narrative about the Kwasi-Sabantu. They did their research properly, and they went there and they got the news firsthand. So what I've done is firstly to look what are the journalistic ethical principles, and then to compare, look at the unethical principles in some of the newspapers, and what Noseweek wrote, which was ethical, and compare it with each other. So the whole book, A Journey to the Truth, the case of Kwasi Bantu Mission, is based on that case study, but it's a comparison between the unethical news reporting and the ethical news reporting.
Okay, tell us a little bit about Kwasi Bantu.
Kwasi Bantu, and like I said, I didn't know anything. I was absolutely surprised when I went there. It is, if not in the world, the biggest Christian mission, definitely in Africa. They're located in Kranskop in KwaZulu-Natal, but they have different branches in South Africa, in neighboring countries, and also abroad. So it's quite huge, and it was founded by Reverend Erlo Stegen more than 70 years ago.
Wow.
So his calling was, God told him that he has to work among the Zulu nation. Now you must understand, it was during apartheid years in South Africa. We had a very bad history of apartheid, etc. So he went and he followed his calling, and he started the ministry. So next year they will celebrate, Kwasi Bantu will celebrate 55 years of the mission.
Wow.
He built a mission from nothing. He had 5 co-workers working with him from day one. Some of them are still there. Many of them passed on. He also passed away in November last year, unfortunately.
Yeah.
So Kwasi Bantu, in order to fulfill his calling, to do what God told him to do, he was a farmer by heart. So he started with agricultural projects, started firstly with vegetable gardens to feed the masses of people that eventually came to hear about the Lord. So, and they came from afar. I don't know whether you know KwaZulu-Natal, but it's...
Yes, I've been there.
Yeah, and Kranskop is underdeveloped, etc., etc. So he started, in order to feed them, he started with vegetable gardens, which now is Mzeni farming, which is the biggest sweet pepper producers in the country. And they've discovered spring water on the farm. So they started to bottle it in the 70s. And that is the Aquila water. So the produce, they have avocados, which they export, and lots of other things, peppers, vegetables, etc. They sell it, and the revenue they use for the ministry work, for outreaches. They have so many outreaches. Just to name 2, they've celebrated in June the 50-year anniversary of youth conferences. So for 50 years, they host for a week long, twice a year. Normally in the June school vacation, and then November, December, the next one is coming up in December, for the youth. And they go and fetch the youth, they accommodate them for a week, they feed them, and they have 3 services per day, they have sport day, lots of other activities for a week long, and Kwasi Bantu hosted. The last one, the 50th anniversary, there was over 8,000 young people registering. And on the Thanksgiving Sunday, to say thanks to the Lord, there was more than 12,000 people. I was there. I went there for the story. So next year in March, they have the ministers' conference. They have it every 2nd year. And the ministers from all over the world, the preachers, they go there, they learn from Kwasi Bantu, they share their experiences, etc. Also hosted by Kwasi Bantu for free.
Wow.
Now, I quickly want to say one thing to you. Mainstream media painted them as a cult. That's one thing a cult will not do. You know it.
Yes, absolutely.
You will not open your doors for other preachers from across the world to come and preach on your pulpit. That's one thing a cult will not do. So that in itself told me that the stories, if you know what a cult is, if you really know what it is.
I know what the cult is.
Yes, that was the first red flag for me. And that's why I zoomed into Kwasis Ubuntu.
I think I would say to the viewers to double check Kwasis Ubuntu, to check if you are maybe a preacher, a pastor, or somebody who's interested more in knowing the Lord. I know that they can provide services in different countries here in Africa and abroad as well. So we'll encourage people to visit their website and they will see more, or they will get more information from themselves. I also wanted to ask you another question as well, based on the journalists who are Christians. You know, there's people who are Christians and they do the same job, but they work for the companies and they have the job description where they have to abide in certain rules for the company as well. But as a Christian, because even though you're working for the company can never buy your conscience. So what will be your advice to the Christian journalists who are giving the news, and sometimes it could be a fake news?
Okay, I can only speak for myself. It was me. I will not do anything that's against my Christian principles. And if you're a journalist and you understand ethical principles, I mean, they're also in the Bible. So even if you are not a Christian and you are ethical, it's the same as biblical principles. But for me, my advice would be walk away from it. Because money is, you can't have mammon and Christ in your life. You have to choose between the two. But don't go together.
Yeah, thank you so much. I think it's very clear that the Bible tells us to treat other people the same way we would like to be treated. I think if you cannot really enjoy being lied to, why will you lie to somebody else? If you know that what you are doing is not pleasing the Lord, what are you going to get as a benefit? Because the money that you are earning can never buy you life or even happiness. But you have to look at it in the perspective of yourself, knowing that whatever you do, you're doing for yourself. Even when you are saving people, because Jesus came here on this planet not to be saved, but rather to save other people. I think all the people that are recognized as leaders in the world is because they accepted to lose their life for the benefit of others. So we have to deal with every issue as Christians, and we have to put God first in every situation. It doesn't matter whether it's the workplace, whether it's in your house, whether it's in your environment, whatever the situation may be. What will be your add on whatever we already said it here?
If there are any of your viewers that want to know what the red flags of unethical journalism is,
yes,
they can visit, obviously, my website, www.devotedmag.co.za. But I give very practical examples in a podcast series, which is available on YouTube. It is all for free. Our journey, their story. They can go there. If they are interested in knowing more about Kwasis Ubuntu, they can visit their website, www.ksb.org.za. And also the SIPSA program, which is for people who need help, www.sipsa.org. So, yeah, and they can contact me. My details are on the website.
Thank you so much. I think this is the good news, and we need people who will be, even though they are doing their own work, they will also consider the Lord in the work that they're doing. Because as Christians, our main priority is to please the Lord. Now, sister, what will you say as a conclusion of what we already spoken here?
I would really see a new generation of ethical journalists, and we all have a role to play. And Christian journalists have a bigger role to play in that, because we had enough of fake news, we had enough of sensation, we had enough of negative news. Let's be more positive. Let's share all the good stories of beautiful people out there, and let's be more responsible in our news reporting.
Thank you so much, sister. I think that is what we have for today, and I hope that this video was a blessing to you. If you believe this information will be important to somebody else, please welcome to share with friends and families. You can also reach to our sister, then she will get back to you as soon as she can. I think there is a different website that was given. You can also visit them to get more information if you'd like to know more about this Christian media. Thank you so much, and we look forward to see you again. God bless you. Thank you, sister.